Hey there, my name is Megan and welcome to my channel, or welcome back. Today I'm going to be talking about 5 of my most anticipated sci-fi and fantasy releases for the month of November. But before we go ahead and get on into the books, if you are not already subscribed to my channel, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button, as well as the little bell icon so you can be notified every time I post new content. I post new videos every Monday, Thursday, and Saturday, and sometimes other days throughout the week. Also, be sure to check down in the description box below where you can find links to my Patreon, where I do book giveaways, and my Amazon storefront, where I list all of the books that I talk about on my channel that I really enjoyed. The first book is The Defiance by Brandon Sanderson. This is the 4th and final book in the Skyward series, and this is a young adult sci-fi series. However, I always say that if you are a fan of sci-fi, especially space opera type sci-fi, regardless if you don't read young adult, this is such a well done, fun series. And I have read Skyward Book 1 and Starflight Book 2, and I have yet to read Book 3. I do have a review for Starflight. I'll link it up in the cards. It is on the older side. It's been a couple of years since I have read this series, so before I read Kitonic Book 3 and definitely Book 4, I will need to do some sort of refresher to remember what happened in the first 2 books. But in this world, we're following a girl named Spencer, and she wants to be a fighter pilot. So she lives on this planet that is constantly being attacked by these aliens, and she wants to join this force that fights them off using these aircrafts. And Spencer's father used to be a pilot, and one day he disappeared, and he has been labeled as a deserter. So Spencer is trying to clear his name and kind of make a name for herself. So in book 1, we followed her journey, and then in book 2, we got an expanse of the world as Spencer kind of goes into space and learns more about the other players in this galaxy. So y'all know that I'm a fan of Sanderson, and this series was no exception. So The Defiant is definitely one that I will probably put on my Christmas list because I enjoyed the first 2 books so much. The Defiant's release date is November 21st. Next is Chaos Terminal by Mur Lafferty, and this is the 2nd book in the Mid-Solar series, which I had never heard of, but it sounds like it is a sci-fi detective or mystery type series, and it doesn't sound like you have to have read the first book in order to jump into this series. But in this book, we're following an amateur detective named Mallory. Mallory has fled Earth and gone to an alien space station with the idea to flee her past and not be involved in any type of crime solving. Unfortunately, a serial killer has followed her to this station called Station Eternity, and she is kind of forced back into the crime solving life. Now, the law enforcement agent who hounded Mallory back on Earth, as well as her childhood crush and his sister, have all followed her to this new alien station. Mallory doesn't believe that any of this is a coincidence, the fact that her friends have joined her, the fact that a serial killer has followed her. So Mallory really has no choice but to continue being a detective in this new alien part of the galaxy. Chaos Terminal is released on November 7th. Then we have The Darkness Before Them by Matthew Ward, and this is an adult fantasy book, and I've never read anything by this author before. But this is a new trilogy by this author, and in this book, in this world, the lands are ruled by this immortal king who uses souls in order to gain power and use his magic. And there is also this mist that is threatening to overtake this land. So the populace is currently having to fight or resist both fronts, this immortal, ruthless king, as well as this evil mist. The main character we are following is Kat, and Kat is a thief, and she's kind of very narrow-sighted. The only thing that she is worried about is paying off debt, and in order to pay off the debt that destroyed her family, she has to steal these artifacts. And in this world, all of the treasures and anything worth of any value is guarded by these spirits, but luckily Kat has this ability to converse with these spirits. But as things in this world become more unstable between this immortal king and this evil mist, Kat's abilities might come into use as she has to choose a side to fight on in this upcoming war. The Darkness Before Them is released on November 7th. Next we have Calamity by Constance Fay. This is a sci-fi romance and the first book in a new series. I know that fantasy romance is a really popular genre, but I've never heard of romance sci-fi or sci-fi romance, so I'm super intrigued. In Calamity, we are following a main character named Temperance Reed, and Temperance Reed came from a very wealthy, well-established, well-to-do family. But after a series of unfortunate events, Temperance is left with a spaceship that is in shambles and a crew that is a little bit unstable. She is also drowning in debt, and her ship, due to some new flight technology, is about to become obsolete, so things are not looking up for Temperance. Then we are following the male protagonist named Arcadio, and Arcadio also comes from a very well-to-do, well-established family. He joins Temperance's crew, and together they all go off on this scouting mission to this backwater desert planet known as Herschel 2. The two are definitely really attracted to each other, but Temperance can't get rid of the feeling that Arcadio has ulterior motives and is hiding secret motivations of his own. Calamity's release date is November 14th. Next, we have Swarm by Jennifer D. Lyle. And this book definitely piqued my interest just because it sounded like a weird sci-fi thriller, and it has to do with this girl named Shure. We're following her story as the world is essentially dealing with this infestation of these creatures that look like monarch butterflies, but they are absolutely huge, and they essentially swarm everything, and they actually do attack people. And we're following Shure and her family as they are literally fighting to survive against this infestation of hybrid creatures that have evolved due to climate change. So it kind of has like a little bit of a post-apocalyptic feel as we're dealing with these creatures, these newly evolved creatures with sinister motives, or basically survival motives that will destroy humans if given the chance, but then you're also put in an emergency situation where the world has kind of gone into chaos and people are going to take advantage of that, and violence will ensue because laws can't be enforced just because of everything else that's going on in these man-eating insects. So it definitely sounds like a book that if you have like a phobia to insects or anything like that, you probably wouldn't want to read. But I feel like there's going to be a lot of commentary about climate change and the nature of humans, our ability to have integrity or not, if there are no consequences or not. So it just sounds like an interesting book with a little bit of creep factor. Swarm's release date is November 7th. All right, you guys, that is it for my most anticipated releases for the month of November. Let me know if you have read any of these or plan to read any of them and what you thought about it, or leave me a comment once you do read them and tell me what you thought about it. And I will see you all in another video soon. Goodbye.